In the meantime, we're happy to be joined for an assessment of all of this by our friend Candace Owens. Candace, great to see you. So I'm sorry to laugh. It's a serious subject. I think there are all kinds of important implications for civil liberties going forward, as noted. But once you check their numbers on almost any claim, it turns out not simply to be off by a standard deviation, but it's like the inverse of the reality every time.
You're absolutely right, and I'm so glad that you're talking about medical segregation, because there's something really important that I want to say. So often, hindsight is 20/20. You look back and you say, I don't understand how people living at that time allowed these atrocities to take place. I don't understand how people living during the time of Jim Crow allowed these atrocities to take place based off of the color of people's skin. Well, Tucker, we're living in those times right now. People don't actually recognize that. We are living right now in a time where you have an entire ecosystem of people that are telling you discrimination is okay. And by the way, it's always the same characters that force this discrimination. It's always the government that say it's okay. It's always the media that says it's okay. The media is making fun and saying, you know what, this is fine. This is an acceptable kind of discrimination. It was the same during the era of Jim Crow. Most people don't know this, but the New York Times, for example, back in the day when the New York Times was printing articles talking about the Ku Klux Klan, they referred to them as amiable. The friendly Ku Klux Klan met again at this event. They made it seem as though there was something fundamentally wrong with black Americans. They were dumber. They were dirtier. They deserved this treatment. This is exactly what they're doing again years later. They're reintroducing the same type of propaganda to convince people that this form of discrimination, it's actually okay. You need this. It's for your safety. It's always for your safety. And they do this across many other societies. They've done this always. And right now, the Democrats are at the helm. Jen Psaki is implicated here. Joe Biden's implicated here. Right now, we have an administration that is reintroducing segregation again in this country under the guise of medical safety.
And it has nothing to do with medical safety, of course, because people who've been vaccinated are, by their own logic, safe. They're not going to get infected. They've been vaccinated. 100 million Americans thereabouts have recovered from the virus and have active antibodies. They're not carriers. They're not going to get it themselves. So if you were going by the science, none of these laws or regulations would even occur to you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But also don't forget, Tucker, that science is always convenient. The government always uses science like a tool. During the progressive era, it was science that taught you that black Americans were dumber than white Americans. It was scientific. They had proved it scientifically that black Americans were dumber, and therefore they did not want blacks and whites breeding, and segregation, therefore, was a must in society. They manipulate society when they want to discriminate a certain group of people. Right now, they are bent on discriminating against Trump supporters, discriminating against conservatives, even with lies, not even looking at the actual numbers. And you are correct to assess that black people are extremely hesitant about the vaccine for good reason. The government has lied to black people a lot in the past, so they're not trusting the government. They're not trusting the science that seems to change every couple of days, depending on what Dr. Fauci is feeling like in the morning.
Why does no one say that? I mean, if 27% of African Americans have been vaccinated, which is to say 73% haven't. If half of CDC and NIH employees haven't been vaccinated, if you really wanted to vaccinate the whole population, you would make the pitch to them. You wouldn't use this opportunity to attack and demonize your political enemies. This has nothing to do with politics, does it? I mean, the point is to divide.
That's exactly right. It has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with politics. From the very beginning, COVID-19 has been used as a political tool by the left to go after their enemies, to radically introduce change in this country, and in my opinion, to create a totalitarian system of full and utter government control under Joe Biden and the Democrats. We have seen this over and over again, trying to change election laws. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about here, but what we're talking about today is dangerous. We are talking about segregation. So people need to get on board and realize we are living in that time right now. You watching this, you have a decision to stand up right now and say, I don't care how I feel about my neighbor. This is wrong. There should not be segregated sections for people at any sporting event or anywhere else in this country.
That's right. Show us your blood test. And lots of people plenty of people I know have been vaccinated. And if you're asked what's your vaccine status, I think the appropriate response is up yours. You know, in principle, don't answer that question. Why would you? Candace Owens, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.